Welcome, everyone, to episode 149 of Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks, the internet's leading all things Charles Band podcast. And hey, look, it's me, Toshiro Mifune. No, I'm just kidding. It's one of your hosts, Jared Hornbeck, the soul of the samurai. But if you want to, you can call me Yoshi something.
Also,
Yeah, I insist. But no, I'm not the only one who was discovered in this frozen lake. No, who else is here with me?
well, it's me, Steve Guntley, and many people say I am the embodiment of Bushido. I mean, I hear that all the time. You guys, you've probably thought it yourself. This is the podcast about glass bricks, katana carnage, and Johnny Tooth. That's because this is the podcast about Ghost Warrior, aka SWORDKILL. That's one word, SWORDKILL, a mid-'80s actioner that plays like Captain America, but with samurai. So it kind of makes it a little better. Very excited to talk about this one. This was a fun little discovery that I had never heard of before. And we have a very cool guest joining us once again to talk about this movie. Who is joining us here today, Jared?
Well, I mean, our guest today either needs to be a ghost, a phantom, or a hoax. I haven't figured out which of the three yet, but he's also one of the mates of hell, and you've heard him on this show before. Always a pleasure to have him. He's also one of the co-creators of the Final Cut card game, which is a really awesome evolution of horror collaboration product that came out, I believe, last year. It's Alex Ayling, who is back again for the second time. We love a mate of hell returning guest. So, Alex, thanks for coming back.
Oh, fellas, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, happy
I
to
can't
have
decide
you
if
back.
I'm a ghost or a hoax either. Maybe we'll find out by the end of the pod.
Yeah, a little teaser for everybody listening. We are going to finally get to the bottom of this. We were excited to have you back. I think the last time we had you on was for Dream Maniac. And I think I'm going to go on a limb and say this is a little bit more of a polished and entertaining movie than Dream Maniac. I'm just going to say it.
Classed up the joint. When the credits rolled and it said that the score was recorded by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, I was like, wow, this is not what I was expecting.
You said Philharmonic money. I mean, yeah. I mean, this is
that reminds me of it reminds me of like one of my favorite Tracy Jordan moments when Jack is like, oh yes, I'm like head of the Philharmonic, and Tracy's like, I'm friends with Philharmonic, the world's worst rapper.
Is that the same episode where he forces the orchestra to play the Sanford and Son theme over and over again? Yeah,
yes.
That's a good one. That's a good one. This is a Ghost Warrior, a movie I was not familiar with, but we've had a great little run. We're kind of recording out of order, but we've had a great little run here of Empire films, like mid-'80s Empire films and we had thought we'd kind of like tapped out like most of the big ones, so it's been fun to go back and discover a couple of these. And this one really surprised me just in terms of how cinematic it looks. I know that sounds like a half-hearted compliment given that we are a movie podcast and we talk exclusively about movies, but this one really feels like it has some like craft and like a budget behind it, and that one kind of took me by surprise.
Well, this movie had a $2 million budget.
I mean, that's
for an Empire movie is huge. That is,
I agree. Like, I was not expecting this. Like, I remember last time we talked about the film feeling like it had been shot on a potato.
Exactly,
absolutely the opposite of that. And they really put the money. I mean, you could tell that they'd spent a lot of money on some of the sets because they lingered on them for a very long time, and the scenes went on an awfully long time. We've got to get the most out of our light show surgeon operating theater, but
I mean, we have footage in here that's shot in Japan, and I don't think there is another movie in our entire canon that can claim that. Like the scenes that take place in Japan are shot in Japan, and it looks amazing.
Really,
really nice looking.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we've watched that's been shot in Romania, and like when it's an Eastern European themed thing, it looks good and it's sort of passable for any Eastern European backdrop. But there's something like really geographically specific about Japan, and so the fact that they were able to location shoot for some of that stuff is pretty impressive. I think you see it on the screen, and it's like, okay, no, this is actually, if this isn't shot on location, this is maybe a bit hyperbolic, but this is like a Kubrick style like Vietnam set. What's the name of the set where Kubrick generally worked out of in the UK?
Pinewood.
Pinewood.
Pinewood, yeah. I say this is a real Pinewood situation. If it wasn't shot in Japan, but it was. Now, before we get too far,
I just thought they found
go
a
ahead,
really,
Alex.
I just thought they found a really cool bit of Northern California, and they were like, "Oh, these trees will do."
That's the thing. They could have just like called it a day there, but like, and I could be wrong. And like some of the research on some of these old movies that are not very well documented are a little bit spotty. But I was buying into it. If it's not Japan, it looks like the mountains of Japan. So I think that's pretty exciting.
I think this movie is kind of night and day, Alex, from Dream Maniac, which besides being shot on a potato was really like a vehicle for highlighting some hunks in tidy whities, which is the true Dakota calling card.
Of course,
and we don't get that one here. But I have to ask you because between you and Brad Hansen and Stevie Webb, I mean, the Mates of Hell are pretty well covered on this show to this point. I think all of you've been on the show twice now. I don't know if you know that it is unwritten prerequisite that you must compose a plot synopsis for this show. And I'm curious if without any prior knowledge, if you have one of these prepared.
I can't help myself. And do you know what the trouble with this one as well was? The only thing that this has in common with Dream Maniac is that neither of these films have an entry on Wikipedia.
That's true.
On the list of all the Full Moon and Empire pictures, they're all blue apart from these two and a couple of others. So I really like that we've gone super niche. Oh yeah, how did I know? Maybe you would want a synopsis. So let me go. Sometime in the unsubtitled 1400s, a group of feudal warriors are escorting a prisoner through the snowy Japanese mountains. The samurai makes a desperate rescue attempt, only to see his pity rewarded with an arrow to the chest. He falls off a cliff and into an icy lake, never to be seen again, until 400 years later, in an unsubtitled 1984 Japanese cave, where he is discovered by some extremely surly explorers. Thankfully, for my understanding of the film, the frozen body is shipped to the US, where people start talking English. He is thawed out using an improbable light show by an even more improbably financed scientific outfit that will not check your references when they hire you, which is lucky for Chris, the historian/scientist, who, despite her expertise in Japanese history, does not speak a word of it. At least 10% of the running time is dedicated to resuscitating the samurai, who is christened Yoshi, and seems to be by parts bored and in awe of the modern world. This handily half describes my reaction to this movie, as it turns out. So out of place is his noble samurai code in the peak of Reagan's America, he ends up doing a few crimes, including killing some street thugs that definitely deserved it, killing some other street thugs who also definitely deserved it, killing the leader of the street thugs who 100% deserved it, and killing a scientist who may have deserved it, but was also driving a bus that they were all in at the time, so maybe it wasn't the best idea. Anyway, because of these crimes, Chris takes him on the run, and despite being very good at hiding, they end up being discovered, and in an echo of the opening scene, Yoshi proves that he hasn't learned his lesson at all, and his pity once again leads him to winding up at the wrong end of a police shootout and falling to his death, in another lake.
Love it.
Very nice. I think you nailed it.
Very concise.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely. And you really highlight something here, which is that a lot of the narrative of the middle of this movie, and it's structurally kind of an odd movie, but in the middle, Yoshi is walking around and he is like picking off some of these street thugs. And, we got the movie we got, but like part of me was like, man, I kind of wish I got a Samurai Death Wish movie. Like I'm watching him do this, and I kind of just am expecting, I just want to hear like, hey, gang members, I'm a samurai. Watch out.
I mean,
you're not to get sword killed.
Yeah, there's no Wikipedia page, but there is an IMDb description. So all I had to go on was a frozen samurai is thawed by a female scientist, who and then goes on a rampage throughout the US. So I was like, oh, okay, so this is going to be a rampage film. It's not that at all.
It's really not. Yeah, it's
really not.
That kind of put me off on the wrong foot too, because I'm like, I was expecting, like, I kind of liked the idea of they defrost this guy, and instead of him like coming to life and being like this noble hero who teaches us his old ways of chivalry, he's going crazy because of the cognitive dissonance of 400 years and a culture gap and a language gap, and he just starts slaughtering everybody. Like, I was kind of on board for that. I think that's kind of a funny idea. Just like, oh, we defrosted this man. What can you teach us? How to die? How about?
Yeah.
And like running around. And that, no, it wasn't what we got. He is very much like a noble character. He is saving lives and he is being like the chivalrous hero.
Well, Steve, it was only one of two options. It was either that or he becomes unfrozen samurai lawyer.
Exactly. Exactly. Look, I'm just a lawyer. Well, let's learn a little bit about the making of Ghost Warrior, aka Swordkill, one word. This was released in March of 1986. It's directed by J. Larry Carroll, written by Tim Kernan, and it stars Hiroshi Fujioka, John Calvin, Janet Julian, Charles Lampkin, Jay Schuler, Bill Murray, Andy Wood, Robert Kino, Joan Foley, and Peter Liapis. Now, director J. Larry Carroll had directed one and only one movie, and we are looking at it. Outside of this, he is better known as a writer and producer. He worked on a lot of Star Trek TNG, in addition to a wide range of sci-fi shows and Saturday morning cartoons, lots of syndicated stuff, lots of Xena, lots of Hercules, lots of Babylon 5. But he was also a longtime collaborator with Charlie Band. He was a producer for films going all the way back to Cinderella in 1975. So he worked on Tourist Trap. He worked on most of the Empire films throughout the 80s. So they were buddies going all the way back. And I think this was
Steve, you left a big one out. This is the man who edited the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, that's right. He sure is. Yeah. That's a big one. That's a big one. He and Ted Nicolau both came from the Texas Chainsaw family and kind of moved over into Charles Band's orbit. So yeah, that's a big one. He so if this is his one and only film as a director, he is still a very accomplished film producer, film editor, film writer. Now, in a classic Armageddon Deep Impact moment, this film debuted within weeks of another movie about a frozen man defrosted in the present day. That movie's called Iceman. It stars John Lone and I want to say Timothy Hutton, if I remember correctly.
Right.
But that movie, it was hardly a blockbuster, but it was more of like a mainstream play. And I think it was enough to make the investors get a little bit of cold feet. So this one got shelved for a couple years. It was completed in 1984, but it only got a small theatrical release in 1986. We're talking about a lot of Empire movies from this like middle 80s period. So that's going to be a recurring theme coming up over and over. The movies were shot, shelved.
There's a great timestamp in this movie where you can, if you wanted to, figure out exactly when this movie was shot, or at least parts of it. And there is a great movie theater marquee in LA behind them showing both the Canon Films Hercules and Rocky III, which would have been about a year in its theatrical run. But I mean, that was commonplace back then to have movies stay in the theater for a really long time. Oh, yeah. But I looked at that and then I deduced that the scene of them kind of walking with the LA backdrop, at least that one, must have been shot in late August of 1983.
Okay.
Which tracks, because I think they said this was shot in late 83. This
digital
is a level,
detective work. I love this.
This is a level of dedication that all of the other thousands of Ghost Warrior podcasts aren't bringing.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many.
I have a question.
Somehow.
Yes.
Maybe you can help. Why did this film have two titles? More than that, why does this film have two entries in the official list of Full Moon films when you look at them?
That's the crazy thing. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a hallmark of B movies of the 80s for the most part. Like, I think going back to the 60s and 70s, like filmmakers or distributors would just kind of choose their own titles, and since these are exploitation movies in the purest sense, meaning they're trying to capitalize on a cultural moment, I think they're a little flexible with these titles because they're trying to cash in on like, all right, so what's popular right now? Is it the ninja thing or is it more the Death Wish thing? So I think when this was shot, they were thinking it was more of a Death Wish thing. So it's Swordkill, that's more expressing the violence of it. By the time it came around, ninjas were kind of all the rage. And so they're trying to capitalize on that. Now, obviously, this is a samurai movie and not a ninja movie, but it is like a Japanese culture, like martial arts based movie. And so they're trying to kind of get in on that. So I think Ghost Warrior is kind of the accepted title of this now. Like you can find this on MGM Plus in a pretty good quality. And it's, and it goes by Ghost Warrior, and that's the title.
Which is unfortunate because like we talked last week, you would have heard us talk about the movie The Alchemist. And that we had a conversation in that episode about the distribution company Film Ventures International, and they were well known for doing that, like picking up a movie for distribution and completely changing the name, re-editing a whole new like intro credit sequence and title cards and all that stuff. And I think, as is the case a lot of the times with those movies, I feel like this one is like, I don't know, can we all agree SWORDKILL is a cooler name?
100%.
I
100%.
agree. I agree it's a little cooler. I also agree it's more of a first draft, or like almost like a random word generator, where it's just like, okay,
it doesn't describe the movie either. Like SWORDKILL is even more going to set you up for that kind of rampage vibe, which you're not going to get. So Ghost Warrior is probably more, or maybe Ghost Contemplator with a few, with a sword. Is a bit more of an accurate description of what you're going to get.
There is the occasional sword kill in this movie, but yeah.
And he's really good with the sword. I really appreciated that there wasn't a whole load of like ching, 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 ching stuff going on. It was just like, no, real economy. Like he killed 3 people with 3 slashes of his sword. Like, he knows
because nobody else he's facing off against has a sword, it's people are not walking around in the mid 80s with swords, it's not Florida. But this is the American debut of Japanese TV star and martial arts expert Hiroshi Fujioka. Now, fans of tokusatsu shows, so if you don't know what that is, think Power Rangers, basically just like people turning into robots, and it's like kind of serialized TV shows. They might know him better from a show called Kamen Rider, which is a character he still plays periodically to this day. He's in his 80s now, and he'll still pop up in anime, like voicing the characters or playing like a legacy version of the character. But that's a name I know. I'm not familiar with the series, but like I'm familiar with the character of Kamen Rider, and I know it is kind of one of the most influential of this particular subgenre of Japanese TV.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Alex, like, what you bring to this particular conversation, Alex, with like baseline knowledge, because for me, this is such a outside of like the Mattel and Mars Bars quick energy Chocobot hour.
Right.
I don't really bring much knowledge about this. Is sort of a blind spot. And this was sort of a wheel spin. Like I gave you a list of movies, and then I kind of highlighted this one because I was like, this is pretty high concept, and based on the premise alone, I was like, this sounds interesting, and you seemed to agree when I sent it to you. So, like, are these types of movies something you have a lot of background with?
Absolutely not. No background whatsoever. But yeah, I love a high concept, right? And so I loved the idea of this. And again, I wasn't a huge like Power Rangers guy either. If it was on, I'd watch it, right? But I'm not into the lore. I wasn't like fully onto all of that kind of thing. And so I haven't had like a Japanese phase or anything like that. The thing that I thought was interesting about this that I don't think you get from other things as well. I was thinking, and I'm going to reflect this question back to you, because I think it's probably more of a US thing. But this was there were some like slurs that were being thrown around. In this, and it made me think, like, we don't have that same historical connotation in the UK because we were fighting the Germans. So in the Second World War, and so the 1980s, that was very common that you would have like slurs and all those kind of things. And I thought it was really interesting that they made it into the movie. And I was wondering, like, from your points of view, like whether you thought like how you thought that was handled, whether you thought that was like an appropriate thing, or whether they were like playing with it, or
this was also, and I don't know if this was the same in the UK as well, but in the 80s, American culture was terrified of Japan, right? Because Japan was the sleeping giant. Japan was the big. They were technologically advanced. Their cars were better. Their TVs were better. Yeah, and they were starting to flood the market and sort of take over. And a lot of Japanese companies were buying big American corporations. So I think
I remember this from like Gremlins. There's that whole subplot as well, isn't there?
Exactly.
With, Mr. Fussman.
I think some of it is responding to like, I think some of it is just that in the 80s, we were a lot more free with our slurs, in movies. It was just kind of more casually thrown around. B, I think there was like this anti-Japanese sentiment or like a Japanese fear in the culture at this time. So like, maybe that was thought to be a little more acceptable. But there also was a fascination with Japanese culture, hence this move to make this Japanese TV star an American movie star.
I hate to use this word, but I think like Eastern culture in the United States at that time was exotic.
Mhm.
And so it was like, as much as we were afraid that the Japanese were going to like take over and you know, overtake all of our industry and, you know, flood our, not just that, but our cuisine with gross sushi. Can you imagine? Like that was we talked we recorded some of these out of order, and in another Empire movie that you'll hear in a couple of weeks that we already talked about, we talk a little bit about how like sushi was this just like unlimited source of comedy, a punchline in the 80s in America. It was like the idea of even
you would eat raw fish.
Exactly.
What are they thinking?
Exactly. We were not ready for that. But I think, you know, how is this handled? I mean, authentically, I think maybe for the time. And you know what? Listen, we sat through Ooga Booga. We released that episode. There was a walk in the park comparatively to deal with.
Well, I was thinking like the people who are saying the slurs are like unabashedly bad folks. Like they are not meant, they're not glorified, and they're, you know, and so I thought it was just an interesting, like it was, I don't know, I had to manage my expectations as I was watching this because I was not expecting this sort of grown up kind of approach, and you know, compared to the films I'll normally throw on that are in this kind of category. You don't normally have to think as much, and there's not as much.
Yeah, like our main
character,
like this movie itself is a bit of a fish out of water. Like it's such an odd entry in Empire in that time, which I don't know, maybe is unfortunate. I really genuinely like a lot of the swings Empire took at this time. I mean, you know, hindered by budget, hindered by time a lot of the time. Also hindered by maybe, you know, indifference. It could be from Charlie Band, could be from other people. Oh, this didn't really catch on. Great, let's move on. Because cards on the table, I quite liked this movie. I
had a blast.
Flawed in a way, you know, in ways for sure. I think I wouldn't put it past someone to be able to nitpick aspects of the structure of the movie and the storytelling and stuff like that. But all of that being said, I actually quite enjoyed it, and I think that the Hiroshi Fujioka performance is quite good.
Yeah, that's true.
Too.
He's the best part of this film. Yeah, for sure.
And Alex, you pointed out too that like this movie does not have subtitles, not just lack of English subtitles on MGM Plus. It has no Japanese subtitles, and I was not sure at first if this was intentional. I wasn't sure.
I don't know. Yeah. There were no subtitles. I tried to turn them on, and it was like there were none available. I was like, oh, maybe this is intentional, but it seems wild to me that you would release this movie in theaters in 1986 or whatever, and not subtitle the first 10 minutes of the film.
At least the first 10. Like I think by the time Yoshi was in the present day and like he was being like interpreted and translated and like
that's fine.
That's when it like now it's intentional. But like having no subtitle dialogue in the first 10 minutes of this movie was kind of odd, especially because I was worried I was missing some crucial like plot development. You pick it up, you understand what's going on.
I think it's fine in the kind of like the beginning bit with the prisoner and all of that. I can understand maybe you didn't really need words that. It's when those two Nordic skiers are going through a cave and chatting away to each other, and she's giving him looks like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, oh, well, just one more thing. And I don't know what they're talking about. And I was like, this is weird that I don't know what they're talking about.
I'm with you. That's where it was starting to throw me a little bit.
So there's things like that where some creative choices are maybe questionable. It's like, don't subtitle the stuff people can't understand. But then there's also, I would say, probably pretty unnecessary English voiceover.
Oh, there's a lot of narration.
Really felt like I don't know, somebody looked at this print and was just like, I don't know, is this making sense? Do we need to have somebody explain it? But you were exactly right. You nailed that, like kind of a core flaw with this main character, a female scientist, sometimes just called a scientist.
Can you imagine, Steve? This is fiction, right? Can you imagine?
They also, and forgive me for using this word, but her area of expertise is, quote, Oriental studies, and she does not speak a word of Japanese. She is the leading expert in the culture of Asia, and she does not speak the language of any of that. And I'm like, all right, so I guess there just aren't a lot of experts in this particular field. They're taking what they can get. she picks it
First
up.
in
Like
her
she's,
class, only one in her class.
yeah, she picks it up. By the end of the movie, she's translating for him. You know,
good for her.
Like, yeah, she picks it up pretty quickly. But yeah, this is kind of going off of the classic like fish out of water sort of idea. We've seen this sort of idea trotted out before and since. You know, like it's Futurama, it's Captain America, it's Just Visiting, it's all of these different movies. You know, like where somebody from a different time is transported into our time or the future or something like that, and we have the culture clash kind of comedy.
Steve, let me ask you. You know, Alex was asking us about American culture at the time, how this would be perceived. Fish out of water story. What's more culturally sensitive, this movie or Jungle to Jungle?
Oh boy. I think I'll take this one over this, and weirdly, I'll take Jungle to Jungle over Little Indian Big City, the French version that's somehow more racist than
there's
that.
There's also somewhere in there. There's an Ernest Goes Somewhere He Shouldn't Go movie. I don't remember where exactly it is, but
Ernest definitely went to Africa at one point, and that was about the last we heard from Ernest. Yeah, for probably good reasons in that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty charitable with this movie. I really enjoyed watching it. I thought it was like we called it cinematic earlier, and should surprise no one that it was shot by Mac Ahlberg.
Yeah,
you know, kind of the patron saint of all of the best Empire Pictures stuff. And you know, like we talked about, kind of the regal nature of the score. I think this is a really good Richard Band score.
Yeah.
I think he does as commendable a job as laying off the pan flute until he needs it.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
You could have easily lent right into that, couldn't you?
There's some pedigree behind this movie. Like the line producer is Peter Manoogian, who's like pretty early in his career. The casting director is Joanna Ray. If you don't know that name, she's the casting director for all of David Lynch's projects. Former wife of what's his name, Arlo Ray, or Yes, yeah, the actor. Yeah, I mean, she's worked with Tarantino and a whole bunch of other people. So, and then yeah, Mac Ahlberg shot it, and like, there's a good pedigree going on behind the camera here. And I'm surprised that this is the one and only film that Larry Carroll directed, because I feel like he's showing an eye here.
So there's definitely credit deserved to other people. I don't do this very often, but I'm going to read an excerpt from Dave J's Empire of the Bees book. Right. As it pertains, and this was Peter Manoogian talking about Larry Carroll. I thought, although he was a first-time director, I'd be working with a director who knows his stuff. And it was a good script. It was one of the better Charlie Band scripts. But to my utter surprise and shock, he didn't know what he was doing. He'd been an editor and had gone from editing to production manager. He was just impossible. He couldn't pick locations. He locked himself away during production with a storyboard artist and any of the crew who needed questions answered, wardrobe, production designer. Well, at least the drawings were great. But the storyboard artist was suggesting all of the shots, and Larry couldn't for the life of him visualize anything.
Oh, no. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame to hear. Yeah, but whatever, it came together. Like somehow it came together either way.
I mean, it takes a village. Like it takes a village to make a movie. So it's like these other people's contributions are coming through clearly.
Yeah, I've never believed in auteur theory anyway. Like I think it's hokum, complete hokum. So, but you do need a director as well. Like they do need to be contributing something.
And it's surprising that Tim Kernan, the screenwriter of this is essentially his only screenplay as like a solo artist. Okay, because he contributed to the movie Forbidden World from 1982, but he co-wrote that with like Jim Wynorski and a bunch of other people. I think that's a Corman production. And then he wrote one Sega CD era full motion video game called Supreme Warrior, which is obscure even by Sega CD standards. So it's he didn't really do a lot, but I mean, I thought this thing actually kind of worked, and so much of it I think is coming from the lead performance. Like it is, he's got a very charismatic sort of air to him. He's very serious. He's never played as a joke. And there's a scene like that you mentioned which I did actually laugh out loud. The people in the Hollywood diner who see him and like, oh my God, Toshiro Mifune. And I'm like, yeah, no, I mean, I get it. He has that kind of like stoicism. Like, I'm not saying he's the caliber of actor that Toshiro Mifune is, because he's maybe the greatest actor who ever lived. But he's definitely got the gravitas and the stoicism that you kind of want from a samurai style character like this. And
So talking about this film and why people maybe didn't make other things as well, like how would it work at Full Moon at Empire with the economics of each individual movie? Like, was each movie held up against its own like return on investment, or was it more just like a kind of, we're all going to come in and we're all going to come out? Because I'm wondering like whether this film got a stink attached to it because everyone was difficult, and then it was on the shelf for 3 years, and I mean, I know every film is going to spool up its own production for tax purposes and whatever else, but like I don't know, like what would that happen?
Charlie Band, especially in this early Empire time, and I would say, and Jared, you probably agree with me, 86 was probably the peak of Empire's powers. Like they're coasting off of off of Reanimator.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can go by when this finally got its like really limited theatrical release. I mean, whatever the first kind of really small release it got in 84, I mean, Charlie was probably moving on to so many projects. I don't think he really had time to even dwell on the success or failure of this one. I mean, Ghoulies would already be in production, Trancers would already be in production.
Right.
I mean, if you go I think Dave J puts them in production order chronologically, and this one is coming off of like Dungeon Master and Metal Storm, and it's like those did reasonably well.
Yeah,
and then it's like Ghoulies was a huge hit thanks in no small part to that incredible ad campaign.
Yeah.
And then Trancers and whatever coming after that, like he hit kind of a period. And then there's other ones that are like these kind of quick, almost like blinking, you'll miss some ones that actually work in the middle there, like Zone Troopers and a few other ones. I don't think it was something, I think there might have been maybe a little hesitance to kind of come back to this well and maybe write it off as a failure, because it was a $2 million budget, and to be honest, it was going to be more originally, because this was going to be a 3D movie initially.
Yeah.
Wow.
This was the era after Parasite and Metal Storm both kind of like revived 3D very briefly. There was like a very, very small pocket in the early 80s where 3D was coming back. And so, yeah, Charlie was trying to do a lot of that. But I think the short answer is probably just that a lot of the time, Charles Band was using the success of one film to pay for the failures of the last couple, you know? So I think a lot of the time these movies, maybe he didn't have the distribution costs right there because he was still paying somebody back for Ghoulies or something, and then this one got pushed more to cater his production cycle around VHS releases, which was becoming more and more of a thing. Not so much for home, like building your own home library, but rental stores were popping up. It was becoming the de rigueur kind of way of watching movies. And he was tapping in on that market and just kind of thinking, why do I need much of a theatrical release if this thing is just going to kill on video? So perfunctory release 2 or 3 theaters and then dump it onto video and make its money back there.
Just interested in the politics behind it, like who's in, who's out. Did he have this like clique of people that he was like, I trust you? And I don't know.
And most of the people that he works with, like even when he has falling outs with them, they come back around, like he's just that kind of guy who like is able to sort of unite people, and that like he'll be charming enough on one production that you'll forget that he might have kind of stiffed you on the last production or something like that. So I think, he continues working with a lot of the people that are involved.
So this one and done is pretty rare then in that case.
It's pretty unusual. Yeah.
And a lot of these people would come back together again, like, later in the year. If we're talking about this initially getting like a really small early 84 release, later that year, Charlie Band, Empire would take over distribution of Reanimator. Like Reanimator wasn't an Empire production, but it was an Empire distribution. But Charles Band came in and it kind of inserted, like, told them to fire the DP, the original DP, and brought in Mac Ahlberg, who shot this movie to shoot Reanimator and turned it into the masterpiece that it is. And brought in like his brother, obviously Richard Band, to score, and a lot of the guys like Peter Manoogian would and Richard Band and them, they would reunite the year after then to do Eliminators.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of these people, and I don't remember if Mac Alberg shot Eliminators. I'm going to assume he probably did because I feel like he was shooting most of the big ones at that time. I forget.
I'm going to say
But,
yes.
like,
I'll look it up just to close.
yeah, it was always a lot of these people coming back. It was a real collective, Charles Band and Empire Pictures collective of people. And I think like, I don't know, they just kind of had the attitude like they were going to throw a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks. And when it didn't, like I find it very hard to think that anyone is like ashamed of this movie. Like I know there's definitely some that people try to disown.
Mhm.
Like this one might have been a weird outlier and they were like, okay, well that didn't really work, let's move on. But I think now also with 40 years in between, it's kind of a nice addition to the catalog. It kind of breaks up the the typical, I guess, what would become Tiny Terrors and kind of like goopy sci-fi stuff that would, because this was going to be, it was a 3D, initially announced as a 3D movie along with a movie called Journeys Through the Dark Zone and a sequel to Parasite from 1982. And both, I mean, I don't know much about what Journeys Through the Dark Zone would have been, but as far as a sequel to Parasite, like, I don't know that the world needed that. Like, I'm kind of happy that this endeavor fell through and that we got just the Swordkill movie that we did.
Right. And I can confirm, by the way, Eliminators shot by Mac Alberg. I'm also working off of the theory now because it just kind of clicked in my head that this is quite similar to another 1984 movie that was probably taking all the oxygen out of the room. Of course, I'm talking about Ninja 3: The Possession, which is
the Domination. Sorry.
The Domination, excuse me, sometimes called The Possession, but yeah, Domination is the better one. So I'm going to assume that like either that ate up all the oxygen in terms of like kind of supernaturally tinged like ninja or samurai movies, or I don't know.
Just to magnify like what you're saying, that was where Canon Films putting out, Ninja, I think Return of the Ninja, and it's like not Enter the Ninja, but it's like Ninja, Return of the Ninja, and then Ninja 3, and that was like those really crazy ones with like Franco Nero, and then Lucinda Dickey playing the titular character. Which, if you've never seen Ninja 3: The Domination, like that is a movie to seek out, where it's like it's a riff on like Flashdance, where she's like a telephone repair person by day and like an aerobics queen and ninja by night. It's and she's possessed by the spirit of the original ninja. It's a fantastic.
This sounds incredible, movie. And I've never seen it, so I'm adding it to my Letterboxd list right now.
It's the single sexiest scene involving V8 juice that you'll ever see.
Oh yeah,
easily
pouring it all over their bodies. But then you also had like the syndicated show The Master with Tim Van Patten and Lee Van Cleef, where Lee Van Cleef is like this fish out of water samurai guy, and Tim Van Patten is like an incomprehensible mushmouth Brooklyn guy, and they just like go around having adventures. Like this was really infiltrating our popular culture at that time.
I'm keeping it. It's going on. It's going on the list.
Oh, Ninja 3 is phenomenal.
It's such a
good time. A good thing, I'm a little proud and a little ashamed of this, that somewhere in my notes I was very proud of myself for a pun that I think I came up with, which was where one of the gang members who is coming up to trying to take on Yoshi in like the empty warehouse gets what I wrote down as being referred to as a bikefication.
Oh my god, he was bikeficated. Yeah, he absolutely was.
I love that. We didn't see it. I was sad.
No, it was implied.
We got one hand chopped off.
Yeah.
It's better than no hands chopped off. But I would have liked for a film that was originally called Swordkill, that has a samurai sword in it. There were precious few amputations.
Yeah, there were very few. I think some of the slash effects were pretty solid.
Oh yeah,
like there's some good like slashing across the chest kind of gore moments in there, and yeah, it is kind of one-sided for the most part. Like they finally take him down when they realize, oh yeah, we have guns now and we can just
Yeah.
shoot him. But like for the most part, like nobody's really a challenger for him. So it's a little bit one-sided, and he's just kind of like moving through the world, like, you know. And this is one of the areas where I think some subtitles maybe would have helped, because we're not getting a whole lot of his like interiority. We're not really getting, you know, we understand that his young wife was like killed earlier in the movie, but like we're not really getting a real sense of what the complexities of that relationship were, or like what that means to him, or how it's affecting him now. And we're also not really getting the sense of like, I think in movies like this, where you're transposing a character from out of time, there inevitably kind of needs to be a moment where it's like, oh yeah, everybody I ever loved is dead, and this is a world I'll never understand, and like I'm so alone, and I'm so like, we don't really get that struggle with him. And that's just, it's not that it's not there, it's just that we don't speak Japanese. And
they could have done that when she turned up with her instant ramen, you know, thing. Like,
right,
he's used to having, you know, the ceremonies and the food being brought to him. Like, I'm desperate to know what he thought of instant noodles in a plastic tub, but you know, that didn't happen.
Exactly.
The other thing I was going to say about his killing style as well is, like, it's not like he's just out there slashing all the time either. He's using all the proper, like, he's feinting, he's ducking, he's using his footing, he's dodging people, and he only kills people really when they when it absolutely needs to happen. Like, he gives people enough warning, hits them, knocks them about a bit, and then only kills them as and when he has to. And so, you know, but while I'm on one hand saying I wish there were more amputations, on the other hand, I do think it's good for the character and for the story, probably, that there weren't as many as there were.
I was going to ask you, actually, Alex, like, given your choice, like, what would you prefer in this movie? Because you were saying how you weren't sure what to expect from it. Like, would you have preferred kind of a goofy, over the top, like Death Wish mowing down gang, or would you prefer like a more pastoral, ponderous, like 2+ hour internal epic where we get we get this whole character story?
Firstly, whenever I fire up a film and it says duration 1 hour 21, I am already very happy.
That's it's an extra bar right there. Yeah.
So exactly. So that's where we're at. I feel like if I did get the kind of all guns blazing, all swords slashing thing, I'd then have to watch it, like, and it would inevitably be problematic in some kind of way, and I would watch it, and then I'd be like, oh, I would take myself out of it, and I'd be thinking like, oh, what was culturally acceptable about it? You got to do all that mental arithmetic in your head, which I didn't actually feel like I needed to do in this. Like, everyone was sort of 80s-y, but they weren't. You know, there was nothing about it that gave me the ick, apart from in the description where it said female scientist. That was the only thing I really bumped on, but everything else felt like, if it was horrible, it was meant to be, and it was, you know, a commentary, or it was authentic or something. So, and the
characters using the racial slurs were also the villainous characters. It wasn't like
they were racist.
They were racist characters.
So that's okay. But, you know, if I'm being really honest with you, Jared, then yes, obviously I would love the slashing, and I want the blood, and I want the amputations. But then I'd feel dirty and sorry about it afterwards.
Yeah.
I was laughing in the movie because there's a scene where they're like I don't remember, they're in an office, and there's like one scientist or doctor guy, or maybe he was connected to the police somehow, but it's a guy with glasses, and he's kind of like, the second time that he's like, hey, you're not going to believe this, but a guy dressed as a samurai hacked up a few more people. It's like, this is got to turn into a bigger deal. Like, this is no longer an isolated incident.
Is someone going to put these things together?
Yeah. And in a reference that I'm sure you'll appreciate, Alex, the guy did kind of look like a nerdy David Bowie, but he also looked, to me, the first person I thought of, and I started laughing to myself, was he looked way too much like Prue from the Great British Bake Off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see it.
Amazing. Yeah.
I really did enjoy the scene where she takes him to the sushi place, or like, well, it's not, it's Charles Lampkin playing the old man.
Who also good too.
I really liked him.
He was
in
good,
this.
actually. Yeah, that's true.
And I liked him bringing him to the sushi restaurant. It's like, okay, here's a way in. You know, here's a cultural thing. because he's serving sushi, and this is this exotic Japanese thing that just arrived on our shores, and he'll recognize this. And he doesn't recognize this because that's not how this was presented or prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And when he even speaks to somebody who's speaking Japanese, the modern guy doesn't understand a word he's saying because the dialect is totally different and like the pronunciations are totally different. And so I really liked that moment of just like, what, you're trying to just lump us all in together? Like, this guy's 500 years old. I don't know what to tell you. He's not speaking a language I understand. Yeah. So like, even
I thought that was a smart touch.
Smart.
Yeah, even these cultural touchstones that you think he can kind of rely on, he doesn't have that, like, because he's just too far removed from any of it. You know,
you guys are really talking me into this movie. Like, I found it a bit boring at the time, but like now you're really talking me into it. Like,
no,
there's
look,
layers.
There was definitely a stretch like in the middle of this movie where I was kind of like rolling off it. You know, the male scientist was kind of abruptly turned into the villain of the piece, which is just like, you know, all right, you know, that's fine. But
he's sort of like a sentient Ken doll.
Like, and there's kind of like a half-hearted romance going on between the two leads that like doesn't really connect for me.
I don't know that it's probably the way the character's written. But I kind of think Janet Julian is pretty good. I think maybe the character isn't really done any favors. I know she's in King of New York, the Abel Ferrara movie.
Yeah.
She's in Humongous, one of my favorite movie posters of the 80s. But I think she's amiable enough in this movie. Like, I think I get her. I mean, again, I don't think the character is written all that well.
She's not mooning after him either. Like, she has like, it's written as a kind of academic curiosity more than anything else. And then as she gets to know more about him, I think she's more enamored. I think she's more enamored with his philosophy than she is like in love with him or like it didn't feel like there was a chemistry and a spark and like that. It wasn't a romantic subplot, but she is, I guess, falling in love with the ideas that he could bring and the way that he moves through the world. And
it's rejecting modernity. It's going back because he's got a code, he's got honor, he's got some kind of like sense of chivalry, and that's appealing. You know, especially when you consider men of the '90s. Oh, they're just worried about their jazzercising. You know, like it's.
No, not Yoshi. He's practically a Klingon when it comes to that. No, I think she's got like a Karen Allen look and energy that I enjoy. I mean, you know, not to put her on the same level as Karen Allen in Raiders, but like, you know, she looks the part a little bit. Yeah. And to really timestamp this thing as unabashedly mid 80s, there are a couple of people. One of the cops in the movie, or that's the guy who's driving, or the helicopter pilot, is the guy who plays Dr. Gruber in the beginning of Reanimator, whose eyes bulge out and explode.
Yeah.
I recognize that guy's face. And then also we get a little, I don't remember if we've ever talked about him on the show, but we get a guy with an amazing name, Simi Bao.
Oh, I don't think we've
he was an older actor. He died only probably 4 or 5 years after this movie was completed, but he is the janitor in Beetlejuice, and he plays one of the police officers, and he's the guy in the diner in Pee-wee's Big Adventure who goes, "It was the worst accident I've ever seen."
That's
as soon as I saw that guy, it's like when they're looking at the Large Marge plaque. That's on the wall.
Oh, I didn't put that together. I don't think I knew that guy's name, but yeah, he was a big part of my childhood between that and Beetlejuice.
Yeah, he also has a part as like a desk clerk in Steve's professed favorite movie of the 80s, Staying Alive.
Oh yeah, obviously my favorite movie. Look, they're staying alive so hard.
You gotta. It's hard there.
Must be someone.
Satan's Alley or whatever that play is called.
The single greasiest movie of the 80s. I'm gonna say, like, just in terms of like volume of baby oil that was dropped on everybody in that movie. It is shiny and slick. I bet people
even on Kurtwood Smith, which is like unpleasant and unfortunate to look at.
Yeah, the reflection off of that head, unbelievable.
Yeah, he just looks like a dildo dripped in beard trimmings.
That is
I'm sorry,
unnecessary.
Everyone.
Please, everybody listening, do not put that on Kurtwood Smith's obituary, okay? He was a distinguished actor. If you put anything on his obituary, it should be bitches leave.
I was just going to say, we can easily sub that out for bitches leave. No, Alex, I'm glad that we're turning you shaping your opinion of this movie a little bit, because I will say I had a pretty good time watching this, and I think like in the grand scheme of Empire, and I've been saying this a lot, and I'll give you an opportunity here to talk about some of the amazing like UK companies that putting out incredible discs that we unfortunately can't get here in the United States.
Yeah,
because like we talked a lot of times when we encounter some of these Lost Empire films that were sold during the bankruptcy. Arrow Video did a great job putting a few of them together in the Empire of Screams box a couple years ago. There's another Arrow Video box coming out in the near future that is not Empire. It's just a bunch of other like B movies that they are giving the same treatment. I would love an Empire of Screams box too, and I would love this to be in it, because I'll give you an opportunity here. Like 88 Films, 101 Films, they put out such amazing stuff. And we had to have Brad Hansen rip one of the movies that he had that we couldn't even get here for what he covered on the show. And it's like, of the stuff that they've put out, do you have any like favorites of things? Because that's such a great boutique label.
Oh God, that's so hard off the top of my head. Because all the ones that I go back to are just the classics. I'll tell you one that I watched very recently that I sort of accidentally watched, but didn't realize that it was going to be like a kind of turning point. Actually, I'll talk about two. The one that I watched very recently, and now I'm obsessed with trying to find a cinema that will screen it, is Demons 2.
Yes.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's great.
And that movie has changed me in a way. I was just like, this is absolutely wild that this sequence of events happened and that someone decided that was going to be the film. So
if you ever make it to New York, I will work on trying to get the Nighthawk Cinema here to screen it.
It's a date.
That sounds okay. Yeah,
let's make that happen, because that sounds incredible. I caught whiff of someone in London was maybe going to screen it, but then it's all gone quiet. And we've got this new little like grindhouse cinema that's just opened up called the Nickel. And it's like a 37 seater capacity, and they put all sorts of things on. So maybe I could convince them. So that'd be one thing. And then you've already mentioned Brad, my good friend Brad. He's got a podcast called Gore Things, and one of the films they covered on that is a film called Prometheus. And I don't know if you've seen that.
No,
I will now mark my movie watching life in the things that happened before I saw Prometheus and everything that happened after I saw Prometheus. I'd watched it with a fellow traveler at like midnight one night in an Airbnb we were staying in, and we were both forever changed. So I would highly recommend both of you to check that one out.
Is this the 97?
But that's not available anywhere.
The 97 film, the Prometheus, the Fallen Angel.
That's the one.
I have never heard of this.
Oh, wow. It's a deep cut. Thank you to Brad for bringing it to my attention. It is extraordinary. Like for all of the gore and stuff that we didn't get in this movie, it all happens in this one. And again, it's surprisingly well budgeted. So there's a lot to love there.
That sounds awesome. Okay, it's about the resurrection of a killer angel who starts rampaging. That sounds really fun. I've never heard of this one. Well, this was an absolute delight to talk about this. I think we probably got to let you get out of here because it is late over in the UK and we want to respect your time. Thank you so much for resurrecting this ancient 400-year-old corpse with us and rampaging through the streets of Los Angeles. Always a delight to have you on. Where can people find all of your stuff and everything that you're working on?
You can come and find me. I'm Alex J. Ayling on Letterboxd or on Instagram. Just come and chat to me about stuff. That's mainly where I hang out these days. I'm avoiding everything else in the internet. That's where I can. So come and find me there. And yeah, this is always great fun.
Oh, well, thank you. And you did a great job with the Final Cut game. And so in your shortest elevator pitch, just in a sentence or two, let our listeners know what that is and where they can find it.
You're so much better at this than me. So it's a card game that I created in collaboration with the Evolution of Horror podcast, and it's a super fun, really quick social game where you are building your own horror movie. You have to. It's a set collection game, and you can pick it up super quick. It plays in like 15-20 minutes. The artwork's amazing. If you love horror movies, you'll spot all the little references that we put in. There are quotes. There's so much love and care went into it. So if you want to buy that, you can go to theevolutionofhorror.com, and it's available for sale on that website.
This is going to be the sweatiest of transitions, but I was part of the Kickstarter for that game. I'm so proud to have contributed to that because I wanted to see that game happen. I wanted to see it get out there into the world, and it just felt good to support something. And if you enjoy this show, then the best way to support us is to give a little 5-star rating on whatever podcast chaser you're listening to this on. If there's a function for reviewing, leave us a brief review if you feel so inclined to do so. It just helps us to reach a wider audience and get us out there, in people's algorithms for people who are looking for niche movie content. And it just would help us out. If you want to keep up with the show and know what we're doing, the best way to do that is on Instagram. You can follow us at puppetmasters_castlefreaks. You can follow me at _Giallo_Jared. We also post promotional stuff on Blue Sky, and we have our YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to, which has audio versions of the show. Maybe some video stuff in the future, but that's hard because Steve has another amazing show that he'd love to tell you about. So, Steve, what else have you got going on?
Oh, well, thank you so much. I also host a show called Cinema Arcade. That's cinema and arcade all mashed together into one beautiful portmanteau. That's what we do. We're talking about movies and the video game adaptations of those movies. See how they compare, contrast, detract from each other. We just wrapped up a month of holiday-themed movies, and we are moving into January, which is going to be all about The Mummy, the 1999 Brendan Fraser film, and the series that developed from there. So, and then 2026 is going to have a whole bunch of amazing episodes, and I haven't even plotted out the course of that one yet. So I'm going to be surprised along with everybody else.
Steve, can I ask you, next week is episode 150. Do we have something big coming for episode 150? Maybe like some kind of amazing crossover that people have just been like chomping at the bit to get to?
It is the mashup that people have been gagging for, and I am using gagging in a very literal term because we are bringing together Evil Bong with the Ginger Dead Man. That's right. Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong. The two worlds are finally colliding. I think we've been pretty generous with the Ginger Dead Man movies, less so with the Evil Bong ones. But hey, maybe these are two terrible tastes that taste great together. Some kind of reverse Reese's Peanut Butter Cup synthesis going on here. Regardless of the quality of that movie, I'm very excited for our guest. I'm very excited to record it. Yeah. And I'm very excited to knock another Evil Bong off the list because those things are just hanging over me like the specters of things that and I'm worried like the last 4 episodes of our show are just going to be all Evil Bong. So we gotta get these out of the way.
Well, considering there's going to be 4 more of them by the time I finish this sentence,
yeah, I know.
You're probably right about that. So it's episode 150. We've got a big full moon crossover that a lot of people are waiting for. Thank you again to Alex Ayling. Always a pleasure to have a mate of hell on the show.
Absolutely.
We will see you next time.
Thanks, fellas.